What is gravity? Gravity is not curved space. Gravity is the force that curves the space. For some reason, contemporary physicists have confused Einstein's theory of general relativity and its quiet equations showing the geometry of space as an apology with the force of gravity. The two are not the same.
Gravity has three distinct stages of action. First is the torsion or the angular momentum across the field producing a wave of gravity. Then you have the magnetic moment when the wave of gravity breaks and conserves energy by converting its momentum into higher or lower states of energy. And three, then you have the resting state, where gravity returns to its resting state, which is the field that Einstein's equations refer to, the geometry of the flat field of gravity, non-moving field. It's this field over which the angular momentum waves will travel in motion and then produce its flux or retractive or propulsion motion as the moon being attracted to the earth and then propelled backward once it produces its flux after its magnetic moment.
Forces have a propulsive attribute. Space has a geometric topology, quite like a map, but does not show any forces, only the geometry or topology or what the forces produce in a field. Therefore, if you take a flat field and torque it under into it is like confusing interacting forces, it produces the topology or geometry of curved space. The flat field of space or electromagnetic unperturbed energy curves under the forces or the angular momentum of the interacting objects within the space. Just as Newton theorized, the Earth that has a greater mass or energy content produces a propulsive effect on the Moon when the two approach each other and exchange their energy content. The Earth does not make any movement as a result of the Moon because it has greater mass to absorb the energy of the Moon. But the Moon is propelled backward as it releases the excess energy exchange between it and the Earth. This is called the inverse proof propulsion line. For some reason, contemporary physicists have abandoned Newton's theory of energy exchange between two objects producing motion. Einstein's theory of general relativity does not address the propulsion or motion of ground produced by gravity, but introduces a field of space and its topology or geometry after the objects within the space have torqued and curved the space around their masses. One must remember the classical physicist Newton's theory that gravity, the center of gravity, is the same as the center of the mass. So all objects of lesser mass than the Earth that come within the gravitational field of the Earth are attracted to the center of the Earth's mass. Yes, so northwest, east, and south is attracted inward as the center of the Earth is the center of its gravitational mass or the center of its attractive force. Gravity also has a propulsive force as seen with the Moon being propelled away from the Earth, and it is gyroscopic or centrifugal momentum or centripetal, depending on which side of the Earth you're looking at. So this idea that no propulsive force in gravity is equally in error. Because the Moon spins backward at its moment of gravitational exchange with the Earth or its magnetic moment in which it absorbs the energy of the Earth and is propelled backward as it releases the excess energy of the Earth, a greater mass than the mass of the Moon, and therefore must release its energy in what has been defined in classical physics as the magnetic moment followed by the flux. A flux or a release of excess energy can propel something backward or forwards depending on the location of the greater mass operating on the smaller mass. Just remember, the center of mass is the center of gravity of any large object in the universe or solar system. Therefore, the idea that gravity moves upward or downward, such as the Earth moving upward to meet the smaller mass, does not make any sense. The Earth is a greater mass than the Moon is pulling the Moon toward its center of mass, and when the Moon approaches too close where the energy of the Earth becomes too great, it must release the energy absorbed by the Earth into a magnetic moment or flux pushing the Moon backward in space. Therefore, you get the classical movement or centrifugal force movement of the Moon circulating the Earth by approaching closer and then being jealous and backward as the Earth's greater mass jumps into the Moon and pushes the Moon backward as the Moon must release the excess energy absorbed from the Earth carried. This is Newtonian classical physics. Einstein's general relativity did not address classical forces, but addressed the geometry of space based on the energy density or mass of the planetary systems that torque the energy field or gravitational field around the masses that are pulling surrounding energy toward the mass's center of gravity, or the mass's center there is pulling the gravitational field or excess energy field toward its center. So you will see all of light or photons traveling not in a straight line but curving equidistant around the Earth as the light is bent toward the center of Earth's mass or the center of the Earth. This is the reason light bends. This is the reason the space surrounding the Earth has less density and also torques and curves around the greater mass of the Earth. Therefore, objects move around the curves because they also are being torqued in angular momentum and following the energy path carved, not curved, but carved for it as it rolls like speeding pinballs around the topology or the ups and downs of the curved space, bent and curved under the forces or the angular momentum of the objects pulling everything toward the object's center of mass. The Moon has a center of mass, the Earth has a center of mass, and the Earth's center of mass is greater than the Moon. Therefore, it attracts the Moon, and then when it exchanges energy with the Moon, it propels the Moon backwards. So contrary to the belief that gravity only has an attractive force, gravity has both an attractive and a propulsive force. In other words, gravity is an action. It is not a thing, it is an action that occurs in steps. You have two large masses being attracted to each other. First action. Second action is the exchange of energy content. Third action is the propulsive force backward by the Moon. This happens with everything. Why do we walk around a curved sphere or globe of the Earth? Well, it's because our bodies are being pinned to the Earth as we are being pulled to the center of the Earth's gravitational core. However, our mass is equal in energetic force on the surface to the energetic attractive force of gravity, so we walk around the surface of the Earth and we're not pulled into the Earth because our atomic structures are also providing stable propulsive forces in which are in constant exchange. Therefore, our atoms of every human's body is in constant interaction with the gravitational force or attractive force toward the Earth's center of mass on a constant perpetual basis. This is what causes our atoms within the human body to rotate or spin, just as the Earth atoms, like the atoms within the human body, are also in a gravitational spin equal to each atom with equal force. It's just that the Earth has a greater mass because it has more atoms versus our tiny little bodies composed of maybe a couple of trillion atoms. Their Earth is a couple of quadrillion atoms. I don't know the exact number, I'll have to look it up, but that is the theory. Conclusion: gravity is an action or a force in action. Einstein's general relativity equations are a geometric representation of the forces of gravity that produce a curved or torquing angular momentum bending and what should be a flat surface of space. However, space does not have a typology or flat surface because of the introduction of planetary masses, which are condensed energy versus the surrounding electromagnetic field, or shall we say the lake effect of throwing a pebble in a stillwater lake and watching the gravitational waves circle outward from the pebble being dropped into the water in conformity with Huygens' principle.